Razor has named his first All Black squad, and it does not include Blues number 8, Hoskins Sotutu. Folks, let's have a look at some stats to compare Hoskins with some of the kind of other number 8s knocking about, the likes of Wallace Sititi, the youngster who did make the All Black squad, Braden Yosse, the other kind of standout number 8 for the Canes, who was having something of a standout year, although didn't make it into the All Black squad. And then also Luke Jacobson, who has been a bit of a utility guy, and he played much of the season of the Chiefs at 8, but then also on the flank as well. We'll compare him, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Razor did put out this kind of semi-cryptic statement about the selection of the loose forwards, saying that he likes guys who are good on both sides of the ball. Was that a little bit of a statement that Hoskins is weak on defence? We'll have a look at the numbers, and you guys can let us know. But let's start with the ball carries. Who is leading the way in terms of the ball carries? Now, the way we're going to do this is have a look at all their carries and meters and passes and tries and all this stuff and work it out. What is their average per 80 minutes? Because we've got their total number of minutes as well. So at least it's a level playing field, because these guys have all played a different amount of game time each year, but we'll level it out so it's a kind of average. And per 80-minute performance, Sititi does lead the way with run meters. Now remember, this guy's got himself into space a few times. He's kind of like to get an intercept, and he's got the pace that if he does get any space, he's a hard man to catch. So he's averaging 70 meters a game, more or less, which is phenomenal for a guy playing in the back row. And Yosse is not too far behind with 63. So those guys absolutely lead the way. They're both kind of carrying more than 14, 15 times a game. So really, really busy. Jacobson is at the back of that pack. He carries less than everybody else, and he gets the fewest run meters. He also has the fewest run meters per carry. So the less kind of offensive-minded player with their ball carry amongst those four. And then Sotutu's kind of in the middle. He carries less than Sititi and Yosse. He gets lower meters, which I think kind of makes sense, because if you carry less, you're going to get fewer meters. But interestingly, where he does beat all the other three guys is how many meters he gets per carry. So he's averaging 4.87, Yosse's at 4.49, and Sititi's at 4.39. So every time Sotutu carries, on average, he's getting more ground than the other guys, but he chooses to carry fewer times per game than the others. Maybe that's because he's a good ball passer, but we'll get to the passing stats in a minute. Defenders beaten in clean breaks tend to be kind of X-factor stats. How good are you at busting tackles? Well, Braden Yosse is very good at busting tackles. He's averaging 4 busted tackles per 80-minute performance. Sititi's not too far behind with 3 and a bit. Sotutu is half of Yosse's numbers with 2. And then Jacobson is again kind of bringing up the rear. And then clean breaks, it's Sititi, then Sotutu, then Yosse, and then Jacobson hasn't kind of managed any. Like I mentioned, Sititi with those intercepts, that certainly gets him a bit higher in the clean breaks stakes. So, yeah, I mean, Sotutu comes in kind of third, basically, I think, for the overall numbers of how many meters does he get and how many tackles does he bust. But we do need to keep in mind that he carries fewer times. And that leads to the passing. Because you've got to look at Hoskins Sotutu's passing and go, man, he's got a pretty nice pass on him for a forward. And he passes more than everybody else. He passes more than 10 times a game. The other guys, like Sititi's 6, Yosse's 7.5. Jacobson, once again, kind of bringing up the rear. He's a more defensively minded loose forward compared to the others. So Sotutu's passing game outshines the others. I think that's true. And I think that also leads to him having fewer ball carriers. So you could say he's a little bit more of a balanced player, but I mean, 6 and 7 passes a game is not exactly miles behind. So all these players have been kind of standouts for a reason. One thing you notice about Jacobson, though, is he's got the fewest turnovers conceded per game. I guess because he's having the fewest carries and the fewest passes, he's coughing up less ball. That kind of makes sense. Sotutu is the highest, followed by Sititi not far behind, and then Yosse is kind of in the middle. So, yeah, coughed up ball is a negative stat that you don't want, but it does go hand in hand with having more ball in hand. What about tries and assists? This is the one that Sotutu absolutely dominates. He scored 12 tries this season. Yosse had 4, Sititi had 2, Jacobson had 1. So Sotutu's not too far behind a try a game. Like if he plays 5 games, he scores 4 tries, which is a crazy number. Likewise, his try assists. He's at 9 this year, whereas the other guys, Jacobson 2, Sititi 1, Yosse none. I do think part of that goes down to Sotutu's passing game. So he's averaging a try assist more than every other game, like 0.6 try assists per game. That's really crazy for a guy who plays number 8. So he's streets ahead at having that direct action that gets his team on the board. Pretty nice numbers. But what about defense? This is the one that, if you're basing kind of the thoughts on what Razor said, is this where Sotutu lags behind? If you just look at a pure number of tackles per game, yeah, he does. He lags behind the other guys. So Sititi and Jacobson kind of lead the way in terms of how many tackles they're making a game. Sititi is at like 16. Jacobson's at 15. Yose is at 13. And Sotutu is at 10. Now, one thing you do need to keep in mind is that as a team, the Blues have made fewer tackles than the Chiefs and the Canes. But the difference between the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Blues, like over the regular season, was only like 2%. So not like that drastically different. But teams that have made more tackles overall will obviously have players that have got higher tackle numbers, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So Sotutu is genuinely kind of 5 or 6 tackles behind the likes of a Jacobson or a Sititi, and then Yose is kind of there in the middle. And also, Sotutu has the highest missed tackle rate, with he's having 1.4 missed tackles a game. Sititi 1.1, Jacobson 1.3, and Yose less than 1. So the defensive numbers, just in terms of pure tackling numbers, they don't highlight kind of Hoskins in terms of being a star. It does show Sititi and Jacobson certainly lead the way. But one area that Sotutu defensively does kind of shine, and he's not too far behind Luke Jacobson, is his turnovers won. Jacobson is averaging almost a turnover a game, and so is Sotutu. So Sotutu's turnovers won is streets ahead of Sititi and streets ahead of Yose. So maybe it can be a case if you've got a guy like Dalton Papali'i playing alongside you, then, Dalton makes the tackle, you get over the ball and try to turn it over. Everyone's got kind of different roles, but if we look at the tackle percentage, as I mentioned, Sotutu 87% is solid, but Jacobson 91%, Sititi 93%, and then Yose pretty much 94%. So, yeah, those are some stats. They are all on the ball stats, by which I mean, the ball is always involved in every one of these stats. Whether it's turnovers, you're trying to win the ball, tackles, you're trying to tackle a guy with the ball, carries, you're carrying the ball, passing, you're passing the ball. They're all on the ball stats. We don't have kind of off the ball numbers about, there's like GPS data about how many meters he's kind of running per game, the time it takes him to get up off the deck when he's made a tackle or, been tackled, how quickly does he get back into the line. That's the stuff that you feel like the coaches are maybe also going to be paying attention to, which is not represented in these numbers. And there's also a possibility that Ardie Savea is just so far ahead that no other 8s, if they do play Ardie at 8, are going to get much game time. And a guy like Wallace Sititi is going to be just so chuffed to be in the squad that he's happy to kind of hold tackle bags for a while. And a more senior guy may get a little, like Hoskins, who's an All Black already, may not be as keen just to be a kind of squad man. There's probably lots of reasons at play. But what do you guys reckon about these numbers? I reckon Hoskins' numbers are pretty balanced. He's got a great passing game. He's got a bloody good ball carrying game. I know he doesn't get as much as the other guys, but that's because he balances it out with a bit more passing. He's certainly streets ahead of everybody else in terms of his tries and assists. Defensive numbers aren't quite in terms of his pure tackles, aren't quite as high as everyone else. But he certainly can win a turnover. You guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon the All Blacks back row is going to go? Do you think Ardie is a shoo-in for 8, or do you think they could potentially move him to 7? I've heard opinions both ways on that one. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Like the channel, the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I would appreciate it. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.